Dr. Relia moved through the softly lit corridors of the orbital medical ward with practiced calm. Her pale skin bore the faint glow of bioluminescent tattoos, each line a testament to her years of service. Today she wore her crisp white tunic, its minimal design marking her rank without fuss. The ward's hum of machinery and distant chatter faded as she approached the docking bay. Entrance Captain Hayes stepped off the small human shuttle, his stance firm but relaxed. He wore a dark uniform marked with the insignia of Earth's United Exploration Fleet. He carried himself with confidence born from years of interstellar missions. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, and his eyes flicked around with curiosity as he took in the alien architecture of the station. He had come in peace, representing humanity's first true attempt at medical exchange with the Dominion of Orlaxia Aurelia. Greeted him with a polite nod. "Welcome to Orlaxia Station Medical." Her voice was soft but clear, with a slight melodic lilt common among her people. Hayes returned her nod and offered a small smile. She gestured toward the central examination room. The room was bright and spacious, its walls curving smoothly into the ceiling. Hovering medical drones lined up along one side, their sensors blinking as they awaited instructions. A central table stood empty beneath a cluster of scanning crystals suspended from the ceiling. Hayes stepped onto a circular panel in the floor, and the table glided toward him. Leah activated her handheld scanner. It unfolded like a flower of metal and glass, its petals emitting a gentle blue light. She began her routine scan, sweeping the device over Hayes's uniform. The scanner hummed quietly, compiling data. She monitored readings on her wrist console, noting heart rate, respiration, and a host of other metrics. Suddenly, a sharp chime sounded. Relia paused, her hand trembling slightly. The console displayed an unknown energy signature pulsing through Hayes's circulatory system. Her eyes widened behind her clear visor. She lifted the scanner away and took a step back. A faint flush crept across her cheeks taut. Hayes noticed the change. "Is everything all right?" he asked, his voice calm. Relia swallowed. "There is an anomaly," she stammered. She brushed a lock of hair behind her ear. Her cheeks glowed brighter under the clinic's lights, turning a vivid scarlet. For a moment, the practiced professionalism dropped from her expression, placed by surprise and something like embarrassment. Hayes froze, uncertain. The ward's junior staff watched through the open doorway, curiosity dancing in their eyes. Relia waved them back. "Please, everyone, return to your duties," she commanded, her voice regaining strength. The staff reluctantly dispersed down the corridor, murmuring to each other. Left alone, Hayes stood quietly. He sensed Rilia's discomfort. He gave her a reassuring smile. "Take your time," he said gently. "I will wait." Relia nodded. Taking a deep breath, she raised the scanner again, but her hand shook. She glanced at the readings, then closed her eyes. She steadied herself and placed the scanner on the table. "I need a moment to review this data," she said. "Remain where you are." Hayes stood motionless, watching Relia step beside a floating holodisplay. She tapped panels of light, isolating the strange energy signature. The display revealed a faint golden pulse woven through Hayes's blood cell patterns. Rilia's lips parted slightly as she leaned closer. Hayes cleared his throat softly. "I've never heard of a signature like that," he said. Leah shook her head. "Nor have I," she admitted. "Our medical archives contain no record of this pattern in any species." She glanced at him. "It's more than unusual." As she spoke, her cheeks cooled back to their usual pale tone, but her eyes remained. Bright with wonder, Hayes stepped forward. "What do you think it means?" Relia hesitated. Protocol would normally forbid her from speculating, but the anomaly's implications outweighed standard procedure. "I believe it may be traces of an ancient biowave," she whispered. "A form of energy humans were thought to lack entirely." Hayes's brow furrowed. "Ancient biowave." Relia nodded slowly. "Legends speak of a lost human trait and ability to channel life energy beyond the physical form. Scientists dismissed it as myth. But this signature matches the myths." Description? Hayes's heart raced. If true, Humans carried within them a hidden power that could revolutionize medical science. He squared his shoulders. "We must study this carefully," he said. "But how?" Relia tapped the console. "I need to conduct a private examination beyond standard protocol. The data must stay confidential until we understand it." She met his gaze, her violet eyes solemn. "I will need your consent to proceed." Hayes inhaled. He knew the weight of what she asked. Revealing this discovery to the wider council too soon could cause panic or exploitation. He also sensed Rilia's own worry about station politics. "You have my consent," he said firmly. "I trust you to handle this with care." Relief flashed across Rilia's face. She bowed her head lightly. "Thank you, Captain Hayes. Your cooperation may help both our peoples." She guided him to a secluded chamber deeper in the ward. Sliding doors closed behind them with a soft hiss, sealing out prying eyes and voices. The room pulsed with gentle light from crystalline panels overhead. Here, Rilia had access to advanced tools reserved only for high-profile patients. She instructed the hovering drones to perform detailed scans. Each drone glided close, its sensors probing Hayes' body. Rilia stood at the central console, her eyes fixed on the data streams. With each pulse of information, her face shifted from professional calm to intense focus. Hayes watched her, admiration growing. He had faced danger in countless star systems, but never had he felt such awe at a scientific discovery. He realized that in this quiet room, amidst humming machines, something remarkable was unfolding, something that could reshape the future of two worlds. As the drones finished their work, Rilia stepped down from the console platform. She placed a gentle hand on Hayes' shoulder. "I have the full data," she said. "The biowave signature is stable and integrated with your physiology. It appears harmless for now." Hayes exhaled, tension easing in his chest. "What happens next?" he asked. Lia looked into his eyes. "I will analyze these results and prepare a detailed report. Then we decide how to reveal this to the medical council." She paused. "For now, rest. You've done more than I ever expected of a patient." Hayes offered a small smile. "Thank you, Dr. Rilia. I feel in good hands." Rilia bowed her head once more, then turned to secure the chamber's data ports. As she worked, her inner confidence returned. She felt a deep sense of purpose. This discovery was more than science. It was a bridge between humans and Orlaxians, built on trust and shared wonder. And she was the one who would carry its secret forward. Captain Hayes rested on the narrow biobed, surface cool against his uniform. Rilia sat across from him at a simple workstation, her multi-hued tattoos faintly glowing as she reviewed the data. Outside the sealed chamber, the station's life support systems hummed in steady rhythm, a reminder that they were far from home and entirely dependent on our Laxian technology. "Your vital signs are stable," Rilia said, tapping a hollow interface to bring up a three-dimensional model of Hayes' circulatory system. "But the biowave signature is more complex than I first thought." Hayes leaned forward. "In what way?" She highlighted a region where golden pulses weaved through his bloodstream. "There seems to be a clustering of this energy around your neural pathways. It may affect memory processing or emotional centers." Hayes frowned. He had noticed subtle changes since the scan dreams felt sharper, memories more vivid, and occasionally a warmth spread through his chest when he thought of Rilia. "Are you saying it changes how I feel or think?" Rilia hesitated. "Possibly. We do not have precedent for a living subject whose biowave is active. In legends, it granted humans heightened empathy or resilience. But it also could be dangerous if uncontrolled." Hayes considered her words. "What kind of danger?" "If the energy spikes too high, it could overwhelm your system," she replied, "or trigger unintended reactions, panic, fainting, even tissue damage." She frowned. "I need to run more tests to map its full range." He nodded. "I understand. What tests do you need?" Rilia tapped another sequence. "I want to monitor your brain waves under controlled stimuli. Nothing harmful, simple questions, memory cues, emotional triggers." I will record your responses. And compare the biowave's fluctuation? Hayes smiled. Sounds like a long examination, but I consent. Thank you, Relia, said softly. She paused, then added, I also wish to speak with you about station politics. Hayes raised an eyebrow. Station politics? Relia nodded, closing the brainwave monitor. Our medical council is divided. Some members will see this as a breakthrough to be shared openly. Others fear it. They worry humans might gain an advantage in diplomacy or worse, warfare. So you're caught between duty and caution, Hayes said. Yes, she admitted. I fear that if the discovery leaks, our alliance could suffer. The Council may impose restrictions or exploit you as a test subject indefinitely. Frowned. That would be wrong. Rilia's violet eyes glinted. Agreed. That is why I want to keep our research confidential until we have a clear plan. She tapped a hidden comlink. I have allies doctors who trust my judgment. I want them to help interpret the data before we decide on disclosure. How can I help? Hayes asked. Arwylaya hesitated, then looked at him, being patient. And honest, during tests, speak freely. Help me understand how the biowave affects you mentally and emotionally. He nodded. You have my word. Relia smiled, relief washing over her features. She moved to the door and opened it with a swipe. 2 junior technicians entered, carrying portable scanners and headband-style IE sensors. They bowed quietly and approached Hayes. We will attach these sensors, one technician said, her tone respectful. Hayes sat up slightly as the technician adjusted the headband around his temple, felt light against his skin. The other technician placed small pads on his wrists to measure nerve signals. Everywhere the machines hummed softly, preparing to record data. Arwylaya returned to her console. Begin the first phase, she instructed. A gentle chime sounded, and the machines came to life. Display screens flickered, showing real-time graphs of brain activity and energy readings. Phase 1, Relia announced. I will ask questions about neutral topics, whether on Earth. Details of your last mission. Answer as you normally would. Understood, Hayes said. Arwylaya asked about simple things. The color of Mars's sunsets, the taste of chocolate, the layout of his shuttle's cockpit. Hayes responded easily, his voice calm. The graphs showed slight biowave pulses with each answer, but nothing alarming. After 15 minutes, Relia signaled for a break. The technicians removed the sensors and Hayes flexed his shoulders. Was that okay? He asked. Perfect, Relia said, studying the data. The biowave remains within expected levels for mundane thoughts. Now, Phase 2. Hayes nodded, curious. Relia turned to him. I will ask questions that evoke memories your childhood, your first flight, significant emotional events. Inhaled ready. The technicians reattached the sensors. Relia gave a nod and the next series began. Describe your earliest memory of your family, Relia started. Hayes closed his eyes, recalling his parents' garden back on Earth. As he spoke, his voice softened. The graph's golden pulses intensified, swirling in gentle waves. Relia watched closely. She noticed that when Hayes smiled, the biowave steadied, but when his tone grew somber, it trembled. She paused the test. Thank you, she said softly. We have more than enough for this phase. Hayes opened his eyes. It's interesting how it changes with emotion, as Relia replied. This suggests the biowave is linked to emotional regulation. It may help humans process trauma or stress with greater ease. She made notes. This could revolutionize therapy across species. Hayes smiled. It sounds promising. Looked at him, but we must be cautious. If misused, it could manipulate emotions or be weaponized psychologically. Then we'll make sure it's used for healing, Hayes said firmly. Arwylaya returned his smile. I believe you. She scheduled the final phase for medical durability. Monitoring metabolic rates and cellular recovery after brief physical exertion. But before the tests could begin, an alarm echoed through the ward's corridor. Relia frowned. That's the security alert. Something is wrong. She tapped her cum badge. Dr. Relia, to station security report status. Crackled voice. Answered, Unauthorized access detected in the medical vault. Several data cores are offline. Relia's heart pounded. Gah! The cores with your scan data? Affirmative. Someone is trying to extract your files. Hayes shot to his feet. We can't let them steal it. Relia nodded. Quickly escort me to the vault. They dashed into the corridor. Hayes marshaled the technicians behind them as Relia accessed the ward's security grid on her wrist console. Red indicators blinked at the vault door. The intruder is inside, Relia said. They haven't triggered lethal defenses yet, but we have seconds before they breach the main archive. Hayes drew himself up. Lead the way. They raced toward the vault, a heavy steel door sealed by biometric locks. Relia swiped her finger and entered a code. The door slid open, revealing the vault's interior rows of data cores suspended. In stasis fields, one core lay on the floor, sparks flickering where it had been wrenched loose. No one else was visible. Hayes drew a stun baton from his belt, ready for anything.
Ow.
Relia hurried to the missing core slot. It had been replaced by a small device rigged to download information. They expected to find your data here, Relia said, unplugging the device. She grabbed the core, pressed it against her chest. We have to secure the rest and find the saboteur. Hayes surveyed the vault. It must be nearby. He swept the room with his baton, then aimed at a shadow that slid behind the data racks.
Ow.
He spun and lunged, catching a glimpse of a figure in a black cloak. Stop, he called, but the figure slipped past him. Hayes chased after, Relia close. Behind, the cloak-bearer vanished around a corner. Hayes paused, breathing hard. I lost them. Relia examined the core in her arms. We need to contain the breach before they copy more data. She tapped her console. Security teams will arrive in under a minute. We should restore the cores to their slots. Hayes nodded. Together, they replaced the core and sealed the device it had used. Sparking slot powered down, then glowed green as the core reattached. Moments later, security personnel swarmed in, weapons leveled. They secured the vault and began scanning for intruders. Relia stood beside Hayes' data. Core safe. A lead security officer approached. Dr. Relia, Captain. We've contained the breach. Intruder is at large, but we have a lead on their signature. Relia exhaled. Thank you. Q, please lock down all access points until we determine how they obtained clearance. The officer nodded. Of course, Hayes placed a hand on Relia's shoulder. You're safe. Relia met his gaze, gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you, Captain. As security sealed the vault, Hayes and Relia exchanged a look of resolve. Their partnership had faced its first test and prevailed. Soon they would decide how to share the biowave discovery with the Council. But for now, they had each other's trust, and that was enough to face whatever came next. Dr. Relia stood in the dimmed briefing room, the faint glow of holoscreens casting soft light on her pale features. Captain Hayes sat beside her, his posture steady, though tension tightened his jaw. Before them hovered the senior doctors and a security commander. The air was thick with concern. We have restored the stolen data core, Relia began, her voice steady. But I worry about how deep the intrusion goes. She tapped a control, and the holoscreen showed a schematic of the ward's data network. Red lines marked the breach points. Commander Thaler, a tall Orlaxian with slate-gray skin, narrowed his eyes. Our preliminary forensics showed that the intruder used medical credentials to access the vault. Someone on the inside must have helped them. Hayes frowned. So a traitor? He asked quietly. Thaler nodded. Yes, and until we identify who the ward remains at risk. Relia inhaled. We should isolate the files on Captain Hayes' scans and move them to an offline archive. Only a small, trusted circle may retain access. She glanced at Hayes. We need your agreement. Hayes tilted his head. I agree. Secrecy is vital until we can present our findings safely. He looked to the other doctors. Recommend? Dr. Celine, a veteran researcher, spoke up. We can encrypt the files with a quantum cipher. It will take time, but even someone with clearance won't decode them without the key, which you and Dr. Relia would hold. Relia nodded. That is sensible. She turned to Thaler.
At
Please assign a security detail to guard our research. Group, no one enters without our request. The lore inclined his head. Consider it done. Once the security team left, Relia and Hayes remained alone. Hayes placed a hand gently on Relia's arm. Thank you for acting so swiftly. Relia managed a small smile. Oh, I couldn't risk losing this discovery. I want to analyze the data from the breach attempts. We might learn who did this or what they hope to gain. She pulled up logs of the intruder's actions. Lines of code scrolled rapidly. Hayes offered to help. Together, they sifted through access attempts, timestamps, file requests. They noticed that the intruder paused at a folder labeled Human Physiology Comparative Study. The attacker tried to copy a study on Earth's neural regeneration protocols, something Relia had never shared on station. Why would they want that? Hayes asked. Relia frowned. Perhaps they aimed to combine the biowave signature with other research for some advanced application. She tapped her lip. If someone wanted to enhance soldiers or develop new cures, they might merge the human biowave data with regenerative science. Hayes's brow furrowed. So the risk is not only political but medical misuse. He leaned back. We must prevent that, Relia agreed. And we must finish our own tests quickly. She reviewed her schedule. We still have cellular endurance trials and long-range neural mapping to complete. She checked the time. Can resume tests tomorrow morning, after encryption is in place. Hayes nodded. Tomorrow it is. Let's make sure you rest. Relia bowed her head in thanks. I will. She gathered her notes and closed the briefing holoscreen. I'll prepare the encryption protocols tonight. Hayes stood. I'll join you if you need assistance. Paused. I trust you, Relia. I believe together we can protect. This discovery, Relia felt warmth at his words. She allowed herself a moment of relief.
Thank you, Captain.
The next morning, the ward bustled with calm activity. New security posts stood at each door. Relia arrived early, greeted by two junior doctors who carried portable analyzers. Behind her, Hayes entered the main lab, his presence lending reassurance. Good morning, he said. Relia smiled and nodded to the technicians. Set up the metabolic chamber, she instructed. We'll begin cellular endurance tests. Hayes watched as Relia guided herself. He realized he was observing Relia's leadership, not his own tests. She spoke clearly, directing the staff. Her confidence had grown since the breach. The first trial measured how quickly human cells repaired minor tissue damage. Hayes sat in a chair while a tiny probe induced a harmless cellular reaction on his forearm. The technicians recorded how fast repair enzymes activated. Relia monitored the biowave readings in real time. The biowave seems to accelerate enzyme response by 15%, she noted. This could revolutionize regenerative medicine. She turned to Hayes. How does your arm feel? Hayes flexed his hand. Fine, perhaps a slight tingling. He smiled. Whatever you're doing, it works. Relia laughed softly. Thank you. She logged the results. Next, we perform long-range neural mapping. I need to see how the biowave travels through your central nervous system. They moved to the neural scanning suite, where a ring of crystals hovered in midair. Hayes sat in a reclining chair beneath them. Relia activated the array. Beams of soft light passed over Hayes's head, mapping his brain structure and biowave. Conductance pathways. Hayes closed his eyes, breathing steadily. Relia watched the holographic brain model swirl with golden lines. Your biowave forms a network linking critical regions: hippocampus, amygdala, frontal cortex. She tapped her console.
Oh.
This network could enhance memory retention or emotional regulation. Hayes opened his eyes. So humans might learn faster or control stress better. Relia nodded. Yes, but we need to test cognitive tasks to confirm. She designed a simple memory test. Hayes repeated a long sequence of symbols projected on the screen. Relia timed each response and measured the biowave spike. After several rounds, Hayes performed flawlessly, even under pressure. Relia's eyes gleamed. Your biowave remained steady, indicating resilience under stress. She recorded the final data point. We have everything we need. Hayes reached out. Thank you, Relia. You have been tireless. Relia shook her head. I owe you a debt of gratitude, Captain. Without your trust, we could never have conducted. These tests, she paused, then glanced toward the exit. Now we prepare a report for the council. Hayes stood. Shall I accompany you, Aurelia considered?
Yes.
Your presence will lend weight to our findings. She closed her console. Let us finish this. They left the suite together, determined and united. Outside, the ward's corridors seemed brighter, as if the station itself sensed a hopeful future ahead lay a council chamber where truth would meet politics. But whatever happened, Aurelia and Hayes would face it as partners, bound by discovery and trust. Dr. Aurelia stood at the entrance of the Grand Council chamber, her heart beating steadily. Captain Hayes walked beside her, his calm presence steadying her nerves. The chamber's doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing rows of seats occupied by Orlaxian leaders, each clad in formal attire. The room was vast and ornate, lit by crystalline chandeliers that cast gentle light. Aurelia took a slow breath and stepped forward, Hayes at her side. As they entered, a hush fell over the council. At the far end, Archon Malkura presided, her silver hair gleaming. Beside her sat the council's medical advisor and several senior diplomats. Aurelia felt their eyes on her, curious and cautious. She straightened her back and steeled her resolve. Hayes gave her a respectful nod, and she walked. To the presentation podium, she activated her holodisplay. Before the council appeared a three-dimensional model of human anatomy interlaced with golden energy lines. Aurelia's voice rang clear and steady. Honorable Archon and esteemed council members, thank you for granting us this time. We bring important findings regarding human physiology. She gestured to the model. Captain Hayes and I have discovered an active biowave signature in human subjects. This energy influences healing, memory, and emotional resilience. A ripple passed through the chamber. The medical advisor leaned forward. Biowave signature? He asked. Explain its source and potential? Aurelia nodded. Ancient records spoke of human life energy, but dismissed it as myth. Our tests confirm its existence. It integrates with neural pathways and accelerates cellular repair by up to 15%. It regulates emotional responses, allowing humans to recover from trauma more quickly. Hayes stepped to her side. I volunteered for testing, he said. I experienced enhanced healing and mental clarity. Dr. Aurelia supervised each trial with strict safety protocols. We found no harmful side effects so far. The Archon raised a slender hand. Her voice carried authority. Your work is impressive, Dr. Aurelia. However, such power demands caution. How can we ensure it is not weaponized or misused? Aurelia met Malkura's gaze. We propose a joint research committee composed of Orlaxian and human experts. All data would be encrypted and access strictly limited. We will develop ethical guidelines to govern any application. She paused. We believe this partnership can benefit both our peoples. Imagine rapid medical recovery for soldiers, improved mental health for civilians, new cures for disease. A diplomat with emerald skin spoke next. Humans could gain an advantage in conflict if they harness this power. Are we not risking imbalance in our alliances? Hayes replied softly. Our intention is medical and diplomatic collaboration. I stand here not as a warrior, but as a patient. Humans seek peace and mutual growth. The biowave can heal wounds, not start wars. The chamber murmured. Some council members nodded in understanding, others frowned. Malkura tapped her staff twice. The room fell silent. We must deliberate, she said. This council will reconvene tomorrow to deliver our verdict. Dr. Aurelia, Captain Hayes, you may retire for now. Aurelia and Hayes bowed. Wow. As they walked from the chamber, Aurelia exhaled. That was intense, she whispered. Hayes offered a reassuring smile. You did well. You spoke with clarity and conviction. They exited into a quiet corridor, away from prying eyes. Aurelia closed her eyes, collecting her thoughts. I worry about political backlash, she admitted. Some may see this as a threat. Hayes touched her arm. We have given them facts and safeguards. Now we wait. He led her to a small consultation room. Aurelia sank onto a chair, exhaustion washing over her. Hayes sat across, studying her. Rest for now, he said gently. We face the council again tomorrow. The next morning, Rilia returned to her lab. Technicians greeted her with respectful nods. The encrypted data core stood ready for transfer. She reviewed her notes, ensuring every detail was precise. Hayes arrived soon after, his uniform crisp. "Ready?" he asked. Rilia nodded. "Let's prepare for questions." They spent hours rehearsing. Hayes practiced answering diplomats' concerns while Rilia refined her protocols. Throughout the day, Rilia's confidence grew. She felt the weight of discovery, but also its promise. That evening, she and Hayes dined quietly in the ward's small mess hall. Soft alien music played overhead as they ate. "Thank you for standing." "With me?" Rilia said, lifting a spoonful of stew. Hayes smiled. "I trust you completely. And I believe this discovery will bring our worlds closer." Rilia returned his smile, finding strength in their partnership. The chamber reconvened at first light. Rilia and Hayes took their places again. Malkura presided, her expression unreadable. The council members asked pointed questions about security, about ethical use, about long-term effects. Rilia answered each clearly, supported by Hayes's testimony. Together, they presented revised guidelines, limited clinical trials, joint oversight, and a public transparency plan. After hours of debate, Malkura rose. Her gaze passed over the room. "The council recognizes the potential of this biowave discovery," she announced. "We approve the formation of the Human Orlaxian Research Committee under the conditions you proposed. However, we will monitor all progress and reserve the right to suspend activities if misuse is detected." Rilia felt relief bloom in her chest. Hayes exhaled and gave her a subtle thumbs up. The council broke into quiet applause. Malkura nodded to Rilia. "Your diligence and integrity have earned our trust. Proceed with caution and wisdom." She banged her staff. The session is adjourned. As the chamber emptied, council members congratulated the pair. Security officers approached with sealed encryption keys. Technicians wheeled in new lab equipment. Rilia felt a sense of triumph mixed with humility. Hayes placed a hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said. Rilia allowed herself a small laugh. "Yes, we did." She looked at the bustling ward beyond the chamber doors. "Now the real work begins." Together, they walked back to the lab, ready to usher in a new era of healing and understanding for their peoples. Dr. Rilia arrived early at the newly established research wing, her steps echoing on the polished floor. The Human Orlaxian Research Committee had its own secluded lab now. Captain Hayes followed shortly, carrying a slim datapad filled with schedules. Both felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. This morning would mark the first trial of biowave therapy on a volunteer patient with a chronic injury. The patient, an Orlaxian engineer named Soren, waited in a reclining chair. His slate-gray skin bore the faint scars of a mining accident. He looked nervous as Rilia and Hayes entered. Rilia greeted him softly. "Good morning, Soren. Today we begin your treatment." She placed gentle sensors on his forearm, where the injury had refused to heal. The sensors glowed as they synced with his nervous system. Hayes watched as Rilia activated the biowave amplifier. The machine pulsed with golden light, echoing the energy signature at the heart of their discovery. Rilia monitored the console. "I will begin the therapy now," she said. A low hum filled the room. Soren closed his eyes, breathing slowly. Hayes stood nearby, his presence a steady comfort. Within minutes, Soren's skin flushed faintly. Rilia studied the readouts. "Biowave is integrating with your cells. You may feel warmth," Soren nodded, a hint of a smile on his lips. After 15 minutes, Rilia ended the session. She gently removed the sensors. "Rest for a moment, then try moving your arm." Soren flexed his fingers. His scar tissue softened. Under his touch, his eyes widened. "It feels lighter," he said. He raised his arm above his head with ease. Hayes and Rilia exchanged a relieved look. "Amazing," Hayes murmured. Rilia smiled. "This is just the beginning." Over the next hour, they recorded Soren's progress. The amplifier's effects lasted longer than expected. Rilia noted each improvement, her hope growing. Hayes helped Soren from the chair to walk across the lab. Soren's gait was steady, his limp nearly gone. The technicians around them whispered in admiration. After documenting the results, Rilia debriefed Soren. We will continue this therapy daily for 1 week. We expect full recovery by the end. Soren bowed his head gratefully. Thank you, Dr. Rilia. Thank you, Captain. Hayes placed a reassuring hand on Soren's shoulder. We are honored to help. As the patient left, Rilia and Hayes retreated to the committee's meeting room. They reviewed the data over the freshly encrypted cores. His recovery rate is 20% faster than our projections, Rilia said, highlighting the figures. On her datapad, Hayes nodded. This will change how we treat injuries on all worlds. Rilia paused. We must be careful. Word of this could spread quickly, Hayes agreed. The public needs hope, but politics can twist progress. Rilia sighed. We will release limited information through official channels. Then we gauge reactions. Meanwhile, the saboteur's identity remained unknown. Rilia tapped her console to view security logs. A recent attempt had targeted the therapy machine's firmware. Someone tried to corrupt the amplifier's code. They want to sabotage our work, Rilia said, or they plan to steal it. Hayes studied the logs. We should increase security around critical equipment and review access codes. Rilia nodded. I will request additional clearance protocols. She paused, then added, we should also vet all staff involved. They drafted a notice for the ward's security office. Soon, new biometric locks would protect every lab entrance. Technicians would need dual authorization, one from Rilia, one from Hayes. That evening, Rilia and Hayes walked through the deserted corridors to inspect the new hardware. The locks clicked shut behind them as they tested each panel. It feels more secure now, Hayes said. Rilia touched the cool metal beside the scanner. It does. But we must remain vigilant, Hayes agreed. We will. Back in the lab, Rilia reviewed the committee's next agenda. They planned experiments on memory enhancement and emotional resilience. She looked at Hayes thoughtfully. Are you comfortable volunteering again? She asked. Hayes smiled. I trust you. Let's explore what the biowave can do. Rilia felt a surge of gratitude. His support had been unwavering. She placed a hand on his arm. Thank you, Captain. He bowed his head slightly. We are partners in this. As midnight approached, Rilia left the lab alone. The soft hum of machines faded behind her. She paused in the corridor, reflecting on the day's success and challenges. Hope and danger intertwined in equal measure. She knew the journey ahead would test them all, yet she felt ready, guided by trust, curiosity, and a shared vision of healing. Tomorrow, the committee would reconvene with new volunteers and fresh questions. Every step would bring them closer to understanding the biowave's full potential. And always, Rilia and Hayes would stand together, guardians of a discovery that could unite two worlds in peace and progress. Dr. Rilia entered the research wing before dawn, the corridor lights still dim. She carried her datapad and a small cup of nutrient broth. Captain Hayes met her at the lab door, rubbing his eyes but smiling. Good morning, he said softly. Rilia returned the smile. We have an important day ahead. Today they would present their final findings to the public on the station's central holonet feed. Inside the lab, rows of Arlaxian and human technicians prepared the demonstration chamber. Once used for experiments, it was now set up as a public stage. Crystalline panels glowed softly, ready to project holoimages of biowave data. Rilia reviewed her notes. Results from cellular repair, neural mapping, emotional tests, and the engineers. Recovery. Next came the final test: emotional resilience. Under stress, Hayes poured the last of the broth into a cup and offered it to Rilia. She accepted gratefully and took a small sip. Thank you, she murmured. He patted her shoulder. You will do great. Rilia's heart warmed. His steady support had carried her through every challenge. The demonstration began as station. Officials gathered. Diplomats, researchers, and curious citizens filled the viewing gallery. A translator drone hovered above to project Rilia's voice in multiple languages. Hayes stood beside her, his calm presence reassuring. Rilia activated the holodisplay. Golden energy lines wove around a model of a human body. Ack! Today we share the full scope of our research, she announced. Ack! The biowave is a natural energy signature in human physiology. It enhances cellular healing by up to 20%, improves memory retention, and helps regulate emotions during stress. The audience watched with rapt attention. Cameras transmitted the holoprojections to screens across the station. Rilia continued. We tested volunteers under controlled conditions. One engineer regained full mobility in days. Cognitive tests showed a 30% improvement in memory tasks. Emotional trials revealed humans could maintain calm under pressure longer than any species known. A soft murmur swept through the crowd. Hayes stepped forward. As a human subject, I confirmed these findings. I experienced faster healing and clearer thoughts. The biowave felt like a gentle warmth guiding my mind and body. He paused. This discovery does not give humans power over others. It offers a path to better health and understanding, Rilia nodded. We propose joint clinical programs to explore therapeutic uses. We will protect the research with strict oversight. Any military application is forbidden by our agreement. She glanced at Hayes, who gave a firm nod. The translator drone repeated their words. Rilia saw relief and hope on many faces. She felt tears prick her eyes. This moment was the result of months of work, trust, and shared vision. Next, Rilia demonstrated emotional resilience. A volunteer entered the chamber, a young human researcher named Mika. Rilia explained Mika will face a mild stress test. We measure how the biowave moderates emotional response. She placed sensors on Mika's temples and wrists. The test began. Mika recited a list of complex words while bright lights flashed. Rilia monitored golden pulses in his neural readings. When the sequence ended, Mika's face remained calm. Rilia pointed to the live data. Notice how the biowave remains stable, preventing panic spikes. This shows potential for treating anxiety. Disorders, applause broke out. Rilia thanked Mika and removed the sensors. She turned back to the audience. This is just the start. Our next steps involve collaboration across species, sharing knowledge for the benefit of all. Archon Malkura, seated in the front row, rose slowly.
Oh.
Her silver hair caught the light. Dr. Rilia, Captain Hayes, your work is exemplary. This discovery will shape the future of medicine and diplomacy. We are proud of our partnership with humanity. The Archon's words echoed through the chamber. Hayes bowed his head in respect. Rilia curtsied in the human way. The crowd erupted in cheers and respectful clapping. The stage lights softened, and technicians guided Rilia and Hayes. Off the platform, later in the quiet of the lab, Rilia and Hayes reflected on the day. The holoscreens now displayed congratulatory messages from across the galaxy. Rilia felt both joy and fatigue. Hayes poured them each a cup of broth. They toasted silently, one hand on the cup, the other on each other's shoulder. We did it, Hayes said. We changed two worlds. Rilia nodded, tears of relief glistening, and it began with trust. She tapped her datapad. Our encrypted archives will now open for approved researchers. Ethical guidelines are in place. Hayes leaned back. What will you do now? He asked. Rilia considered. I will continue studying the biowave's mysteries. There is much we don't know its long-term effects, genetic factors, potential in medicine. She looked at Hayes and I will explore what it means to be human and Orlaxian together. Hayes smiled. I look forward to that journey. He reached for her hand. Together, Rilia squeezed his fingers. They sat in contented silence, listening to the gentle hum of the station around them. The next morning, Rilia prepared for a typhon with galactic news networks. Hayes watched her don her tunic. Break a leg, he teased gently. Rilia laughed. I prefer no body parts break. She kissed his cheek. Thank you for everything. Hayes saluted playfully. I'm always here. As Rilia stepped into the media studio, she felt calm. Her voice projected live across many systems. She spoke of science, hope, and unity. Behind her, Hayes watched proudly from a monitor. Days. Later, the Human Orlaxian Research Wing thrived. Volunteers lined up for therapy. Students studied biowave theory. Diplomats visited to learn about ethical oversight. Rilia and Hayes walked the halls, greeting colleagues and sharing stories. Trust and curiosity bloomed in every corner one evening. As the station's twin suns set beyond the viewport, Rilia and Hayes stood together on a balcony. The sky blazed orange and violet. The soft breeze carried the scent of alien flora. Hayes placed an arm around Rilia. "Look at that," he said. "We made it." Rilia rested her head on his shoulder. "Yes, and this is only the beginning." She closed her eyes, feeling the biowave's gentle hum within her, proof of the bond between species and a promise of healing for all.